picks up level 6, right? So I feel like LGD have a much slower role. Complexity can kind of, if the laning phase goes well, or at least draws even for them, should be able to get this ball rolling much faster by taking the early middle 1 tower and the early off-lane tower away from LGD. Via their Clinks and Dragonite. And now we're just left with the last pick, an offlaner, unless Earthshaker is being run as a core here for Complexity.
Yeah, I actually really like the Clinks pickup against IO. I think it's just one of those combinations that are incredibly strong. But Complexity does have one more hero to go. Maybe even, I would have said the Nature's Prophet, but he kind of has a hard time against the Tiny IO combination.
Yeah. Especially with Tiny sometimes going for Blink Dagger, that makes it even harder for Furion, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that seems to be a really common pickup nowadays. And so, Tidehunter, okay, this is definitely meant to be the 5-man lineup. Yeah, this is all 5-man lineup.
This feels like Complexity through and through, but the pickup that I mentioned earlier, for once I get to have some drafting, Razor. It's going to be the 5th pick of LGD.
It's always like that. Was Viper banned?
Listen, just give me this. Blitz.
Was Viper banned?
Just give me this, Blitz. Just give me this.
Who told you that? Like before this tournament, I was like, it's Viper. If Viper's banned, it's Razor.
Fine, fine. Take that away from me too, Blitz.
If you guys want to sound smart in front of your friends, if there's no Viper, then it's a Razor. Like it's just there's like an 80% chance. It always happens. Like the last 3 games that we've casted, if you stuck with us in the stream, that's what it always is. If you didn't see a Viper, you saw a Razor.
You guys are getting some expert analysis.
You are.
You know that like we don't have nearly as many viewers as the other 2 games right now.
Well, I'll just cheat for you.
Exactly. So you're getting information that all those other people who are watching those other streams aren't getting.
Yeah.
So you know, you guys keep that in mind. You can start laying down the law.
Yeah.
And then later on, you just be like, Cap and Blitz told me that.
No, you don't even take credit yourself, dude. Just tell your friends that you're some sort of genius, like 8K player that has 2K mechanics, and that's why you're stuck in 3K. Like, just blatantly lie to your friends. Like that's why they're your friends, because they'll still love you even after they discover your deception.
Why? Hold up. Why are you encouraging this though? Isn't that the thing that you hate the most? When people try and tell you, "Oh, I'm actually a 5K player, but I'm stuck in a 3K."
Man, I'm just telling you, lie to your friends. That's create deception and sow the seeds of doubt.
And this is why Blitz is a great Mafia player, because he is willing to lie to his friends at all times.
Yeah, you just have to be able to, like if I was listening to the stream and I had never played Dota, I'd be like, huh, that's a good comment. And then I would just say, if I was going to the International, I'd just be like, you know what, if there's they banned out the Viper, I think the Razor's going to be a good pickup there. Like I would do that every single time, not even lying.
Just regurgitate.
Very unashamed.
Just regurgitate whatever the co-casters have told you. All right, so we got a slight pause here. It looks like Z-Freak's keyboard isn't working, but the last pickup of Tidehunter and Razor, let's talk about it a little bit. Complexity, very team fight oriented. You've got great pushing power between their first 2 cores, and now great team fight potential with their last core pickup. The laning phase, maybe a little bit more difficult, and this is probably one of the reasons that Tidehunter hasn't been picked up a whole lot in this current meta, right? Is that it's difficult to make the laning phase work for him as opposed to many of the other offlaners that we're seeing, right? Because take Clockwork and Tusk, the 2 offlaners that you mentioned the most right now. Both of them have ways to either get farm. Well, both of them have ways to be able to get farm, or at the very least experience Tusk by rotating around early pre-level 6 with Snowball and Ice Shards in order to get kills in the other lanes. And Clock just cogs block until he gets his level 6. And they're both able to operate without items. Tidehunter doesn't have that kind of advantage. He has to farm a Blink Dagger.
This is going to be so hard for Complexity in the laning phase. But the thing is, people are going to be like, why would they lane like this? But this was very deliberate. Like, they wanted to pick like this, right? The Tidehunter in general has such a hard time if you're one-on-one against a Razor. And that's the strength of the hero, is that you get to play that one-on-one matchup, right? And Razor's just inherently going to destroy Tide without even any sort of help. Like, that means that the IO can just spend his time stacking, which he will do, and help out mid. Xiao8 in this mid lane, you know, he can just like pretty much go wherever he wants. Like he can just focus on getting level 6 by pulling this camp repeatedly. Yeah. Like, there's just so many options right now that LGD have in terms of the laning phase that it's going to be really, really difficult for LGD to be able to compete. Or for Complexity to be able to compete. And so everything has to go into the mid game.
Yeah.
Like their mid game just has to be flawless. Complexity, this is what they came in knowing, you know, like this is how they played during the TI qualifiers, and I think this is what you have to rely on now.
Oh, unable to snag it. Ziz twice in a row tries to go for the Bounty Rune, but unable to grab it. MMY is just a bit faster. Swindamelons does get the Bounty Rune at top lane, though. So a safe lane Clinks, a mid lane with Dragonite and Z-Freak. Well, he's probably going to be bouncing back to bottom lane. But may keep his rotation back and forth. While Moon Meander as the Tide Hunter, he got an early block off from the Earthshaker, which is going to, I think, be hugely helpful to a Tide. This just kind of ensures he's in a good position, creep equilibrium-wise, for his first level. But he is going to be paired up against the Razor in a 1 versus 1. Obviously, that's never going to go favorably to him.
Yeah, it's why you take the Razor or the Viper, just because it's so incredibly strong to be able to get into these positions. Because think about the heroes that are really popular in the offlane, right? It's the Tusk and the Clockwork. And the issue with both those heroes is, A, they can't really harass you back, especially if you're a ranged hero, right? So now you're stuck in a position where you have a hero like Razor or Viper that can pretty much solo zone you out without any help. So it just becomes really difficult for either of those heroes to
careful with that courier, and MMY, careful with where you're positioning yourself in order to try and get that courier. It seemed like a bait both ways. But either way, both the courier and our little Wisp will walk away quite healthy. Maybe as an early set of boots paired up with the Wisp Tether. He's going to be moving like a speed demon now.
Yeah, and Swindle still has to be careful. Like, he's doing okay right now in this lane, just surviving. But the strength of the tiny IO is that you don't really realize how quickly they can kill you.
Yeah.
Like, it's a silent killer. And so you have to be ready for that burst damage potential that they provide. And at the same time, when MMY goes to do the stacked camp, or when he goes for a rune, you have to take advantage of Swindle Melons and just try to get whatever you can. Like, now he's actually using his hero to just last hit creeps instead of having to use the Breathe Fire every single time. Like, he can get in melee range. But as soon as both those heroes come back, he just has to play the high ground. Like, look at this.
Yep, they immediately jump onto him, toss him back for that extra bit of right-click damage, which they will get. They actually do a good amount of burst damage to MMY, dropping down to about 40 HP. Swindlemelons, though, blocked out by that said Fissure from Fly, means that Swindle is now going to die because of it. He actually gives away the first blood to Maybe, as he just had to run down river, and obviously Maybe, especially with the boots at first advantage, was going to be able to just run him down.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Cap. It's that if you're caught in that type of position and you're not on the high ground, as soon as they went to go get the rune, he felt confident because, you know, he got MMY a little bit low, but he had a regen bottle, and he should have known that the turnaround potential was going to come in, and so he has to be a little bit more careful in this lane. Like, he was so careful up until that moment, right? And that's the thing, is that happens to everybody. They get a little bit too confident, and then the burst damage potential is right there.
Right.
Like, you have to respect it at all times. Like, even if you think the lane is going okay, it's one of the easiest combos to execute and just kill somebody.
Now, how's our bottom lane doing? Why do you think that they put Ancient Apparition here in the bottom lane with Tusk?
Oh, Swindle.
They jump at him again. Yep, they bring him low. Good Fissure to be able to stop some of that damage. There's another toss, but it's a bit too late. Swindlemelons already healed himself up from the bottle.
This bottom lane, though, it's pretty favored for the Tusk plus Ancient Apparition because, again, like I said, the Dazzle's an amazing hero in the mid game. But in terms of being able to zone out a hero or give you any sort of offensive firepower, it's non-existent.
And I suppose with the combination of both Snowball and Ice Shards, especially with the Ice Shards essentially blocking someone out, forcing them to go around, that kind of means the Cold Feet should be able to proc a lot of the time. So this is actually a pretty decently offensive combination where usually Ancient Apparition is a bit lacking, at least when it comes to just two heroes.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's actually a lot of setup for him, and the fact that they're just giving the Razor solo farming experience is really good because he absolutely needs it, and Xiao 8 does need some levels. I would have actually kind of liked to see him in this top lane, but considering it is a dual lane at bottom, I think this is just fine. But
Swindlemelon's been caught. He tried to hide himself in the trees, but they actually ran him down, and now with Yao joining the party, they will be able to get that one kill. At the same time, the double damage Z-Freak, not enough to finish off MMY. He barely lives. And Z-Freak, if he's not careful, he'll dive to the toss. Gets the heal off just in time, though. And LGD walk away. Just one kill, Richard, but it was an important one, the Dragonite.
And this is one of those dual lanes where, like, it gets a surprising amount of kills. I think it was once Jaw that once told me, he's like, if you know what a combination Dota does, you should never die to it, right? Because it's really clear what their objective is. And I think that it's just it's just hard to respect the combination because you think to yourself, stun toss, I can live through that. I've got 700 HP, but you just can't. You're always going to get run down.
Yeah, and then you have the extra damage there as well because it's sometimes the stun and then toss backwards, which gets a lot more right clicks, or maybe there's enough time where there's a secondary toss as well from the Tiny because it is a relatively low cooldown. It's just a very tough lane to work against, and Swindelmelons is obviously suffering quite heavily to it. As maybe he's now just willing to toss out random creeps against Swindelmelons because he's always got the backup regen of the Wisp.
Oh,
and sure enough, that early toss might just spell the death of Swindelmelons, as now he's been weakened enough that the one combination from maybe almost finish him off, but he does manage to live, again, thanks to the rotation from Fly. Meanwhile, top lane, been watching Moon Meander kind of dance around with Sylar. He's doing okay. Like, this is just a lane that's never going to go well for a Tidehunter. He really shouldn't get very much CS at all. But he's doing okay in experience-wise. He hasn't been completely run out of lane.
Yeah, but after a while, the CS advantage that LGD is building up is going to be quite significant. This Dragon Knight, for anybody that's really wondering what CS benchmarks are like in pro games, I think 25 at 5 minutes is pretty reasonable. And he's at 16 right now. And considering he's been spamming his spells nonstop, it's a little bit low, but you have to consider it's tiny IO against a Dragon Knight. Like, he's going to struggle against that no matter what. So I can't fault him too much. But I do think that, you know, he could relax a little and tell himself, like, I just have to play a little bit safer. I can still come back to this game. And I think he's still drafted a good lineup to be able to fight around the map and stuff like that. So Swindelmelons, you know, just don't worry. Don't freak out about it. But LGD, if I'm giving advice to LGD, keep up the pressure non-stop.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing here in this middle lane, but they may be caught because of it. Swindelmelons is still going to go down as Yao actually gets the snowball effort to be able to finish off the Dragon Knight. Now Moon Meander's stuck in a very bad position. He gets the shallow grave, but they're just going to run him down until they can toss him up in the air, or the Tusk. And perfectly timed by Maybe, managing to finish him up the Tidehunter as he runs himself away. The Ice Shards out from our Tusk, but a good Fissure separating both Maybe and MMY. Z-Freak actually ran backwards. Now he's going to be caught by Maybe because of that double kill from Maybe. LGD just running rickshaw all over Complexity in this game too.
Maybe is actually so good at the timing with the toss.
He really is.
They're going to go on Swindle again. He can't survive this combination. This is going to be too much damage for him as the Ice Shards fall at the same time. Swindle does have his boots, but not fast enough at running away as MMY gets the last hit with the Spirits, and he actually just TP'd and died once again. Like, they just anticipated the rotation coming, and they had this ward in position, and I mean, they're just abusing him now.
They surely are, and Sylar is taking more and more control over this top lane now that he has that phase boots advantage. He's always able to run down the Tidehunter, the maxed out static link, and he's using that damage to turn down this tier 1 tower. It's already below half HP. Not being too overly aggressive, though. Complexity have already shown a propensity to try and rotate heroes around to kind of help out their failing lanes. They saw that in the middle lane. Now they actually try and rotate up to the top lane. But LGD are playing both aggressive enough in order to really push the advantage that they have, but also making sure that they don't get caught.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job right now of keeping up the pressure without overcommitting anything. Like, that's what I really noticed about teams like this. Like, LGD is so disciplined right now, and I think a large part of it is just that Xiao Wei is controlling things around the map, saying, like, you guys can go in here and there, and Maybe it just seems so perfect with his spell usage. Like, every single time, he's always on the money with when he uses the toss to finish off the shallow grave timings. So he's just done a really good job of that. And MMY accidentally messed up there. He had like 100 HP and he walked into a bunch of neutral creeps and he meant to pull away. Like, that was not an intentional suicide at all. Like, he still had gold and everything.
Yeah, oh yeah, he really did. He finishes up his urn now, still has enough to be able to buy boots if he wants it, or finishes up the wand. Meanwhile, their middle tower does drop, because while they were farming that one, Swindelmelons has been slowly chipping away with his ultimate. Swindelmelons gets caught by the snowball. Yao turned around by the Fissure. They're actually going to come in with the relocate play here. Ravage goes off immediately in order to stun these two up. Do they actually have the AoE disabled? Doesn't look like it. Both Moon Meander and the Earthshaker end up going down. Swindelmelons is now trying to run himself away from Sylar as he joins the party. Z-Freak trying to be the target. Oh, it actually relocates back the Tiny. Swindelmelons does still get caught by Yao and will end up going down as he can't even run himself away. Ziz did TP in, but once again, Clinks can't really do anything in the first 20 minutes of the game. So even though he rotates, there's nothing he can pick off.
Yeah, I think MMY's clowning around a little because they should have been able to get the kill on the Dazzle if he doesn't keep the tether going there.
Yeah.
But it just feels like they're playing so loose, so carefree. They understand the type of lead they've established, and against a tiny IO, this isn't a combination you want to be behind. Like, that's the strength of the combination, is that if you're behind as a tiny IO, there's a lot of different ways you can catch up. You can split push, you can go for the ganks, but when you're ahead, it just feels like there's just non-stop momentum. Like, they have a sentry here already. All those spells are going to fly on him. Maybe he's going to be unstoppable now, and there's just no saving grace right now for Complexity.
No, there really isn't. At this point in time, LGD, they've got the Ice Blast ready to go. They've got a Tiny who now has Blink Daggers, so he's always ready to fight and try and get more hero pickoffs. Moonmeander's not going to be getting a Blink Dagger anytime soon. In fact, he's going to be dying the Siler now as he uses that gigantic movement speed increase between Unstable Current and Phase Boots to just run down the Tidehunter. And perhaps, yeah, was going to get a free kill on Fly as well. Blocking him out, Relocate's going to come in to make sure there is no escape for Fly, but there wasn't anyway.
Yeah, there's so much gold going the way right now of LGD. Complete map control. It just feels like they're everywhere once.
Z-Freak, full HP, goes for the Shallow Grave, but that just means maybe says, fine, I'll go for Swindlemounts instead. Brings him low enough that Yao is able to grab the kill.
Yeah, now it's 13-1, and that one death being that suicide to the ancient creep, or to the neutral creeps on the Wisp, and it doesn't even matter as Sylar is beginning to push out this tower by himself. It actually looks like they're a little bit out of touch, because if you notice, the IO is going for a mech of his own when his Raze already has it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When that typically happens, it's either A, your team's really out of sync because you're just frustrated, or B, you're just playing your own games because you're so far ahead. Like, they probably just weren't communicating that at all because there's no need to at that point.
Maybe. Yeah, they toss in the toss. Go for Z-Freak in the background, and Walrus Punch snowballing up. He couldn't even get off the Shallow Grave. This is why Z-Freak full HP Shallow Grave last time. Now the Ravage is going to be able to catch both of the LGD members on their way out, but a really good Ice Blast is going to make sure that Moonmeander pays the ultimate price. And now with Sylar just diving into these tier 2 towers, they're willing to fight Complexity full on. Fly managed to get a really good Fisher there. Ziz is also trying to fight up against the rest of LGD, but they're selling healthy enough that they even get kills underneath the tier 2 tower. Now Swindlemounts comes in, trying to finish off Yao, but it's still not enough damage. And Shallow Grave comes out. Swindlemounts turns to fight. He knows he's dead, and he's just trying to get whatever kills he can, but there's just none to be had. Ultra kill for maybe beyond godlike LGD. Now going for a relocate back to base, because why the hell not?
And he's so farmed now. He's got drums. He's got enough for his point booster. At 12 minutes, maybe he's already 10-0 and 5. It's hard to comprehend how he got so farmed. They're up technically 18-0. They literally ran like this. They fought in this circle like 4 times. Like, they're just pretty much walking wherever they want. They just don't care anymore.
So they now go for the tier 2 tower, and Complexity will be giving that one up. It seems they need more farm time for the Clinks. This seems to be, I mean, LGD have broken down how to deal with Clinks, I think, twice in a row. Now, obviously, this is more of an advantage than you normally should get, but and just the early pressure really shows some serious weaknesses in the Clinks.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's that if you don't allow him to build up any sort of potential, and you just lock down the rest of his team, you know that it's a carry that can't really participate in fights. Like, whereas the Razor and the Tiny are coming to fights almost non-stop, and they can actually provide help.
Look at that. Yeah, we even mans up underneath the tier 2 tower to make sure that Complexity can't get the deny on the tier 2. That's how confident they feel. Ziz is going to be spotted out. Maybe actually jumps directly on top of the Clinks, pops the dust. And another Beyond Godlike spree maybe is not stopping. Beyond Godlike for him. 2-0-4 on the Razor, 0-0-4. I mean, all of these guys are just massively farmed.
Yeah, there's a fully completed Ghost Scepter on Shao 8, and I'm just, maybe is so scary right now to every single player on the map. Like, there's nobody that he can't really one-shot at this point. Did you see how early Z-Freak had to cast his Grave?
Yeah. Like,
as soon as he sees him at full HP, he's like, well, if I don't do this, I die. So I've got to. It's not even a bad play in hindsight. But this is the one thing that they have going for them is they've built up a pretty big stack for Moonmeander. So if you could pick up something like a Blink Dagger and get a decent Ravage initiation off, I could still see them potentially picking up a fight. It is a strong combination. The problem is, like, you don't have a mech, and the burst heal potential from LGD is still really high. But I feel like you almost have to go with the Blink Dagger. Like, I think the mech at this point is kind of pointless.
Blink Dagger for the toss now. Swindlemelon still operating on just boots and a bracer. I'm not sure if I want to take a peek at that net worth chart, but it's something to talk about. 15,000 gold lead for LGD. You know those little markers on the net worth chart that go to show, you know, significant events back and forth? There's only been 2 for the side of Complexity, one of which was MMI dying to neutrals, and the other one was a tower.
Not a whole lot has been going right for Complexity right now. Even though the score reads 19-1, it is technically 19-0 because suicides to neutrals do count as a kill for the Radiant. But right now, they are starting to mount a push, and I think this is the right idea right now for Complexity because against a tiny IO, even with the Clinks, they're just carrying around dust, they're picking them off. It's better to go for the 5-man. They've got that Blink Dagger like I talked about on Moon Meander, so this could be the fight where they turn things around.
Yeah, but he had an Invis rune, and if they get a really good Ice Blast, it may not matter. In fact, they're going to go for Z-Freak in the background. Trying to get the double snowball, manages to stun up Z-Freak, but he didn't get hit by the Ice Blast, so he won't immediately shatter. In fact, he's able to Shallow Grave and get back to the base, but yeah, our Earthshaker is not quite so lucky. He's going to be going down. Moon Meander as well as Ziz are going to be running through the jungle to safety. Maybe going to be able to get the kill on Zhao 8. Could be there. Oh my god, they actually ravaged for it.
Yeah,
that's heavy commitment, but maybe that's just what they have to do in order to get themselves on the scoreboard.
A kill is a kill at this point for them. Like, it doesn't really matter what you have to commit. Like, getting the first kill on the board, you don't really care what it takes at that point, and you want to at least make it somewhat close, and to give yourself options to get back, I mean, you have to go for kills like that. It's not an ideal situation, but still, it's a kill nonetheless, and so they should be somewhat satisfied that they're now on the scoreboard, but the problem right now is that LGD's farm progression is just going to get better. Like, instead of building for pure mid-game, they're still going almost entirely late-game, and you've got a Midas on the Razor and a good Dire Courier pickup by Ziz.
Yeah, he snatches that one out, and he's going to be spending a lot of time in the enemy jungle, as per the usual for Clinks, but LGD, I mean, they know that they can't really stop the Clinks from farming up too much. They can go on scouting expeditions and maybe catch them out every once in a while, but it's just not worth the effort. Much better to spend your time actually taking objectives, which is exactly what they're doing for this middle tier 2. Now the relocate up to the top lane. They're going to go for Swindlemelon's. Fly is sitting on the side though, ready to go with the Fisher. Swindlemelon's has already been hit by the combination and is going to be brought down with a couple more right clicks. Ziz comes in, trying to threaten MMY, brings him quite low, needs another shot. MMY comes back for the relocate out, he gets it! Is able to get away. Yao in the meantime, oh my goodness, they even got the dazzle. This is just disastrous for Complexity.
Yeah, this is an absolute shellacking.
The only kill they got was a solo Ravage on an Ancient Apparition.
You know, but if they hadn't done that, I actually think he would have survived.
Or at the very least, he would have survived long enough for his team to actually come in and probably kill the 2 heroes that kill Ancient Apparitions. So
that was just one of those situations where if you don't do it, you know,
it's going to go bad.
It's so demoralizing at that point. Like, if you can't even kill an AA, you're not going to feel good about that. Like, you have to minimum get that. So I don't think they feel too bad about that situation. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but a kill's a kill. And there hasn't been any other Ravage opportunities, to Moon Meander's credit. And it's going to come back in 10 seconds, but this next Ravage has to do work, Cap. Like, they actually have to get bare minimum 2 kills with no losses. Like, a trade is usually good when you're behind, but not when you're this far behind. You have to get something out of this.
Complexity go for the Roshan pit. That's not there. They do manage to get the jump here onto Yao, so they'll chain stun him down. The relocate, they're actually still going to fight this one with 2 Ice Blasts on the side. Fly actually tries to lock down the heroes with the Echo Slam, immediately going for MMY, who will end up dying, and now maybe is very quickly running himself away, actually turns around to go back for Moon Meander and brings him low enough that perhaps Sylar is the one to be able to get the kill. Sylar just mans up against Swindlemelon's, already taking away his damage. Ziz doesn't have the attack speed to threaten Sylar, so he's immediately cleaned up by the Tiny as well. Zhao 8 now pushing forward as a support. Doesn't really care. Maybe a living missile for the Tiny. No, he blinks forward in order to toss the Dragon Knight back. gets that kill. Now going for Z-Freak as well. Maybe he's got another toss-up in 2 seconds. Can he actually stop this TP away? He does indeed. He's still got a stun as well. He can blink forward and try and go for Fly in order to wipe Complexity. As the Ice Blast comes in, Fly is able to dodge it, but a toss in, Fly right in front of the fountain, and he's being threatened by LGD under the 20-minute marker. Now here comes the TPs forward. Swinnemelon's trying to get in range of a stun, but LGD are actually going to leave the base completely unharmed.
They just did a nice little excursion in and out, and Swindle even being forced to buy back with what little meager gold he had to begin with. And so, I mean, things are just not going their way. And it's been 20 minutes and already, I mean, it has to be around 15, 20K. Yeah, in terms of net worth, it's 15 to 20K. And LGD haven't even really gone for a Roshan or anything of that sort. Like, it doesn't even feel like they're interested in ending the game so much as it is they just want to show Complexity, like, look, this is what we can do. Like,
Stat
this is how, yeah, this is how
a
good
little
we
bit
are.
of stat batting, you know. All right, it's Roshan time now. They picked up a double damage right in front of the pit, so it's, I mean, if you need any more incentive to take Roshan, I'm not sure what I can give you, so. Assault Chaos is going to be coming in soon for maybe. He will be picking up the Aegis, I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, they could probably get it to like MMY just because I think he's the only hero that's likely to die in the next 5 minutes. But who knows? Complexity still have all that team fight potential, even if they don't have the items for it.
I mean, they still have Ravage. They have ways to do stuff, but I mean, I'm trying to remain optimistic for them, but at the same time, the farm differential is just so huge right now.
Yeah.
Like, if it was 1 or 2 heroes that LGD had that was incredibly farmed, I would say this is somewhat doable, but it's the fact that the Tiny and the Razor are both just overwhelmingly farmed. Both of them have an Aghanim Scepter, they've got a mech, the high ground potential is there. MMY even picks up a Ghost Scepter for himself, so that he can't really die anymore. So now it's just too many different ways that LGD can throw at them.
Forward to 27. And our 21-minute marker here for this game 2 between Complexity and LGD. LGD currently running the gauntlet of the group stage, sitting at a very pretty 3-0, beating Cloud9 earlier in a 2-0. 2 very close games, but coming out on top anyway. And game 1 quite one-sided for LGD. Perhaps game 2 is going to be just as one-sided as they're now taking this tier 3 tower, now going for the melee racks at bottom lane, and no fight from Complexity just yet. They take the tier 2 tower in top lane. The Klings does have that Desolator, so he can actually threaten buildings. Actually, Moonmeander comes forward, Force Staffs as well as Blink, gets a decent Ravage, but there's just no follow-up whatsoever to it. Sylar as well as maybe are now back up to full HP immediately, and Complexity now have no more offense left. In fact, they're going to lose their most offensive hero, Z-Freak, who gets hit by the Ice Blast, is just left to die.
Yeah, and with the racks taken and the Tidehunter Ravage used, I think the plan is just to go for, to continue to push down, because there's nothing really holding them back anymore. They know the Ravage is down. I mean, at this point, I think LGD pretty much feels comfortable in doing whatever they want. They can smell blood right now. This is their 4-0 game, and I mean, I'm really not too surprised considering how well they played this game.
Moonmeander. Oh my goodness, he couldn't even get up the cliff in time. He had that Force Staff ready to go the whole time, but he needed to make a better escape than just distance. And that didn't even come in time, Sylar. Ags, Phase Boots, hand a Midas and a mech, and they are doing exactly what Blitz was talking about. They know Ravage is down, so they might as well push uphill. They've got both a Tiny with an Ags as well as a Razor. These two heroes are incredible power pushers.
Yeah, and with this tower being taken down, they do go for the attempted deny, and Complexity not interested in letting them just win the game, doing whatever they can to hold off. The Klinks is continuing to just try to farm up whatever items he can, but he doesn't have a TP back to the base, unfortunately, and I think there is still a gem on LGD. No, there actually isn't. So maybe he can just pick off one of the heroes really quickly. I think that's the best possible option for him right now.
Yeah, he's going to try and go for MMY, but MMY does have the Ghost Scepter, so there's a response from him. And now the Klinks is immediately going to be targeted by both Yao as well as the Ice Blast out from the Ancient Apparition. Ziz does get some distance, but toss forward. Yao will be able to snowball him as well. Ziz locked in the corner. Maybe he's going to be able to finish him off with a couple of stuns, and now maybe moves on to the next target. Swinnemelons takes a couple of swipes there. Moonmeander moves forward. Between the double damage reduction of both the Breathe Fire as well as the Smash, Tiny's not doing too much. Fly barely able to stay ahead of Sylar there as our Dragonite does a nice little loop-de-loop in the middle of the air, but maybe going down as the Ice Shard's going to block out his exit to the fountain. He will fall, and so too does Moon Meander. As Sylar, last couple right clicks. Oh no, the Fisher comes in. Finally, the Plasma Field to finish him off. 3 heroes go down right in front of the fountain, and LGD back up after taking a second lane of Brax.
Yeah, they're just looking so dominant while doing so. Maybe just continues to pretty much go in wherever he wants, picking up kills left and right, and 33-4. That was a pretty long fight. Like, he was too tired because they keep respawning in time to continue to fight, but LGD is so dominant. They don't even care about objectives. Half the time they're just running into Complexity's fountain to mop up kills right now, and with Mega Creeps at 25 minutes, I mean, we've seen some sick comebacks today and even in the wildcard game yesterday, but 25k lead at this point in the game might be too much. Well, it's...
Yeah,
right.
Mega Creeps. There's no optimistic way to play this one. It is impossible for Complexity to win unless there's some sort of freak lightning storm that somehow kills LGD all in real life, and that doesn't seem to be happening. So
don't doubt. Actually, that's not even.
Don't doubt Complexity's comeback. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh, what an Echo Slam! That was okay. All right, Fly's gonna at least get something out of this one. They pick up 1 kill. That's the Tusk.
There is a rapier on their Wisp. He sold everything to buy a raid.
Oh, look at that. MMY. He's thinking of the viewers, man. He's thinking of the viewers. People are going to get those extra items for the Divine Rapier buy. So, LGD will now finish out this game with the Tiny clubbing away at the tier 4s and eventually the throne.
MMY is just planting random wards on the ground now, too. They recognized that this game was over a while ago. There's just so much pressure on the map at once by LGD, and I mean, if you're Complexity, you're going to be a little disappointed especially with how this game went.
Yeah, Complexity though, to end on perhaps a lighter note, they did. What did they do in their game versus MVP? Did they go 1-1 or 2-0?
They're 2-0, so they're still 2-2. So
yeah, they still have a perfectly fine standing in the group stage. Just obviously being trounced by LGD doesn't feel great.